Evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, September 12th, 6 p.m. Town Board meeting is called to order. First item on our agenda, actually a public hearing prior to our regular agenda, will be for Todd and Sharon Parmenter, application for comprehensive map change to rezone from R2 residential to agricultural, newly created CSM Lot 1, 5 acres, Lot 3, 5 acres, parcel 0700770 being part of Lot 1 of Wood County Survey Map number 9511, located part of the northwest, 1/4 southwest, 1/4 of Section 26. Everybody knows where that is, right?
Surely.
Surely we do. All right, they've asked for two of the three lots to be zoned as agriculture, being that they are 5 acres in size. There was a 3 lot that they split, one lot being 4.9 something, so it doesn't qualify to have 3 full 5 acre lots. The public hearing, I will ask for anybody wishing to speak against it. And then after those get done, anybody wishing to speak in favor of it, and then the board will take the action up in the regular meeting. So at this time, anybody wishing to speak against the rezoning from residential to agricultural, the 2 named lots? Anybody wishing to speak against? Third and final call, and anybody wishing to speak against? Hearing none, those that wish to speak in favor of, if you do so, state your name. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Third and final time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, the public comment period is, and then we'll go to the regular agenda item. If those that wish to join me, I will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just noticed our flag's on the wrong side, Bill. Who put that there? Good evening. Item 2 is to approve the agenda for the meeting. Any changes? Hearing none. Item 3, approve minutes from August 8th, 2017 Town Board meeting. Motion Kathy, seconded by Dan. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries. Public comment period. People who wishing to address the board will be limited to 2 minutes each. Public comment period not to exceed 30 minutes in length. I believe Pam Hammerside wishes to speak. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you very much for letting me speak in here tonight. My name is Pam Ironside. I have been a longtime resident living around Lake Wazeecha. I grew up right across from White Beach. My husband and I have 2 children, and we moved back into the old neighborhood. I have an adult daughter who is going to be 31 tomorrow. My biggest frustration with raising a child with special needs is accessing the same opportunities that other children and families do. There was never any playground equipment that she could get up on. She couldn't crawl up the ladder to go down the slide. She couldn't sit on a swing because she didn't have the trunk mobility to not fall backwards, that kind of thing. She's now moved into her own home, and I have a few hours free daily that I did not have in the past. So I finally have time to, along with some of my neighbors, work on a project that we're all very interested in. We are interested in adding just some things to the things that are already there. We are not, and I want to make sure everybody really understands that, because there's a rumor going around that we're going to build a great big accessible playground around Lake Wazeecha. We are not going to do that. That is not our intent. I don't know where that came from. It's not anything that, if you've talked to Sandy and I, the leaders, that we have ever put out there. So what our intent is to do is, for example, at White Beach, they have, some kid toys. We want to add a slide to that, but it will have steps up it, and it will be ramp accessible, hopefully with a landing and slide. We want to put that in a couple different areas around the lake so that it's accessible in a couple of different areas. In a nutshell, because I only have 2 minutes, we want to make sure that there's disability-related equipment around the lake. We want to make sure that there's something for our seniors. I don't know if you've seen some of the senior, they're not called playgrounds. I'm not a politically correct person, but you can tell by here that it's just different apparatuses that it's appropriate for seniors to do. If you notice, the seniors and the disabled stuff, not a lot of difference between that. And I'm pretty much suspecting that the average person walking around the lake or being a part of those activities isn't going to know. They're just going to know that it's really easy for them to partake in doing those kind of things. We want to make sure that our four-legged friends are cared for too. We want to add a little dog park to that. And please know that we are working with Parks and Forestry. They are in the midst of putting together their 5-year plan. So this is falling right into what they want to do, some of the things that they're already talking about doing, making accessibility down to the water so that people with limited mobility can access water recreation just like everybody else. So it just all comes together like it needs to. But we do want to, and they do want to include a dog park also. It won't be as big as the city dog parks and things that you see because people can already walk their dogs around the lake. We have that access. We are looking at just a small fenced-in area that would have some of those pet activity kind of things. We want to add more appropriate trash cans and pet bag type things. This is usually Sandy's portion to talk on, but she's not able to be here tonight. We want to put some signage down there so that new people to the area know what does Lake Wazecha mean? What's the meaning of that word? So maybe some informational signs. We want to do some fun scavenger hunt kind of signs so that if you're in Pinecone Bay, it may ask you a question about Willow Run so that you look for something specific in Willow Run. So kind of do some fun signage kind of things there. We want to add some sensory gardens to that. Do you know what a sensory garden is? It's an interactive garden. They've already started a butterfly garden along the back side of the dike. You've seen the pretty flowers. You've smelt those kind of things. A sensory garden is something that people can interact with. So you're smelling something. We might add some wind chimes or something like that to it so that people can interact more with the area. Everybody has handouts, so you have a little bit more information with that. Questions? Any questions? Because I know I went over it really, really quick.
I guess we really can't get into discussion, but what I can tell you is, as you develop your plans, I'd like to invite you back to come in for a more in-depth meeting, and that we could get that tape for you and then get it out on the...
Right. So right now, we're
access.
just in the process of presenting and letting people know what we're working on. We want your feedback. We've presented to a couple of organizations that are already behind us. Some of the neighbors are already behind us with volunteering to do things.
If you get a schedule of when you're going to hold some meetings, if you want to tell, we can put it on our Facebook page and get it out for you.
Okay, very
Okay.
good. Very good.
Okay?
Okay.
And just one thing, you did say the parks and forestry is what you came to was the HERC committee, which is highway and infrastructure.
Well, but the park and
You're right.
forestry have the first 2 hours of that.
Yeah.
And Chad had said that I should come and speak to the park and forestry board. Well, yeah, the whole thing.
All
So
right, thank you much.
did it.
You did
2
it.
minutes? Yeah.
Just take her over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Go ahead, Mr. By.
Alan By,
Aye.
Excuse me.
with the passing on W. Kellner Road, I talked to the chief about it. I can't even remember the last time I've been passed on the right pulling into my driveway, neither can my neighbor, ever since they started handing out tickets for it. And I'd like this on public access so people know about it. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Go ahead, Mr. Head.
Yeah, at one of the, maybe it was an annual meeting, we talked about looking into purchasing that parcel between the fire station and the bank, and I don't know where that's gone, maybe somebody else does, so maybe you can address that in one of the items on the agenda.
Somewhere along, I'll do it in comments when it gets
Thank
to
you.
comments. If I don't, remind me. You usually would. Anybody else wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to regular monthly reports. First, the report from the Fire Department Chief Don Bone.
Good evening, board, citizens. For last month, fire department had a pretty peaceful month. We did have 29 calls for service, 23 EMS calls. They definitely run in streaks. I think Friday morning we had 3 calls within about an hour and a quarter. pretty serious medical calls we went on. And then we had a fourth one in the afternoon just in case we caught our breath. So it definitely runs in streaks. But and then we did have a fire department had an unattended burning call. That was a controlled burn of a brush pile that was left unattended overnight. Actually, our patrol officer spotted it at about 10:30 at night, totally unattended, 10 to 12 foot flame heights and stuff like that. So when you have a burning permit, you're responsible to stay there, maintain a safe area and oversight of it. So I'm sure the fine representatives of the DNR will be having a chat with the individual. The fire department did get called out to extinguish the pile, so it didn't get out of control any further than it was. We did have 3 1050 motor vehicle accidents throughout the month. One mutual aid call for a structure fire in the Coosa's area of Saratoga, and one potential car fire inside of a garage. But luckily it was during the day. We got there close and got that before smoke turned to flames. So had a pretty peaceful month in all honesty. Our fire department will be doing some EVOC training, emergency vehicle operations training for our annual fire department refresher. So you'll be seeing a lot of fire trucks running around the town next Monday night as part of our training for teaching everybody, certifying them on operating our fairly large vehicles. Our EMS crew, like I say, is still going through our annual refresher. Other than that, the fire department is pretty well getting ramped up for our public start of our public education for our fire prevention week and stuff. We have a few schools already booked for the end of September already. They're trying to get the jump on the good days. So we do have quite a few hundred children come through our fire department and stuff like that. So feel free to stop in and we can educate the adults also. Other than that, nothing too exciting going on.
Any questions? If there's none, we'll move right to the safety department.
Safety is even better.
Hey.
Haven't had any issues with anybody this month. Things are looking up and everybody's staying safe.
Good. Any questions? Not? You may turn to your seat.
Actually, if nobody had any questions, I do have another meeting out in
You may-
Saratoga
you
I'd
may
like
be
to go
excused.
to. Okay, thank you.
Police Chief Al Peterson.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, for August, the Grand Rapids Police Department, we handled 388 calls for service, and that compared to 512 calls for service August of last year. It's about a 24% decrease in calls, and town board members should have a breakdown of those calls. We issued 76 traffic citations during the month of August, 12 municipal ordinance citations, and 53 written warnings for the month. Kind of on a side note, as far as the municipal ordinance citations and the written warnings, we've already surpassed total number that we had all of last year. So, and we totally expect traffic citations will exceed last year's numbers as well. So,
They're not slowing down yet, are they?
but they don't slow down and they don't quit passing on the right either. So, anyway, but just, I think that just shows that, you know, the guys and gals are out there doing what they're supposed to be doing and, you know, trying to correct the driving habits of certain individuals. Sergeant Drinkwine attended tactical response instructor training at the Fox Valley Technical College in Appleton, August 7th through the 10th. This training certified Sergeant Drinkwine on the new tactical response skills and curriculum approved by the LASB for inclusion in the 700-hour basic law enforcement officer training. I'd like to extend a thank you to Mid-State Technical College for sponsoring Sergeant Drinkwine for this training. It just goes to show it's another example of the close working relationship we have with Mid-State and the folks over there that they were you know, willing to sponsor him and get him up to speed. It not only benefits them, but it also benefits us, so kudos to them. Sergeant Drinkwine also attended the 6-hour P320 Armor course in North Minneapolis Police Department on August 23rd, and this training certified Sergeant Drinkwine as a 6-hour armor, which he already is for our Glocks, and obviously he's our firearms and rifle instructor as well, so fits in good with his extra duties. The Grand Rapids Police Auxiliary assisted with the Corvettes of the North Car Cruise on August 5th. Duties included traffic control, some pedestrian control. Again, thank them for their service, and when you see them out in the community, our events are kind of winding down for the year, but that doesn't mean we're still looking for auxiliary members and get our numbers back up where there should be. We're spread pretty thin right now, and just even filling the event for Choose to Reuse was kind of difficult. So if anybody out there, we're always taking applications and get everybody up to speed so next year we'll be set. The vehicles department are doing well outside of normal maintenance, and once again, my office door is always open. If you ever have the need or feel an opportunity to come in and chat for a while, my door's always open. Any questions?
Yes, this morning, on my way to work, I happened to see the, one of our vehicles escorting was it the National Guard through the town?
Right, yeah. The unit here in Rapids got activated to go down to Florida, and so when they left the armory, I think Rapids took them up until about Home Depot here, and then we took them the rest of the way down to 80th, and then they went out south on 80th, and then they were taking W out to the interstate, so we gave them the escort to send them off, so.
How many vehicles were there? Somewhere near 40, is that right?
No, actually, I think somebody actually counted them today, so I was told there were 66.
Wow.
Well, when they first, yesterday, when they first told us about it, they said it would be about 60, and apparently there was about 66 in there.
That's impressive.
Well, I guess, what it states is there are resources to help the rest of the country out. We are starting to also see firemen requested to go to Wyoming, Montana, where all those fires are going. A lot of the DNR personnel are being, their agencies are being thinned down to send the resources out there. And now we're starting to talk about concerns around here because of the dryness of the weather that we're seeing, and that's
Yeah.
double-edged sword.
I actually received a couple emails for our Wisconsin emergency response requesting law enforcement support to go down to Florida. Pretty difficult for us to be able to send somebody like that. They were, what was it? I think it was at least 2 weeks they were requesting.
Yeah.
So, we get those requests as well to go support when there's, major events like that around the country, so.
One thing I was going to stop in and talk to you about, and didn't get a chance this week, is the significant reduction in calls from last year to this year, 512 to 388 for August. What category, or was it no category, that seemed to be down considerably? You got any idea?
Well, if you look at I can check real quick here. Last year, I remember when that one came up, that 512, that was abnormally high. But I ran the numbers again this year, and it's still at 512. I think if you look at them,
I don't have last year, so
it should be on the back.
Oh, if I looked on the
Yeah.
other side.
Just looking real closely, we had 132 traffic stops last
How
year.
many years have I been chairman?
And we had 111 this year, so those were down 20-something.
Your follow-up calls look like they're down.
23 disturbances.
Yeah,
down to 8
follow-up was 47 and
disturbances.
71 last year, so that's a significant drop, so.
That's silly me.
So that's kind of where, like I said, that was unusual. The 388, looking back to 2014, is more normal, I guess you could say, number. That 512 last year was, like I said, I can't say specifically what cases they were, but that was, the follow-up is the big difference.
Any other questions, Dan?
On the calls, on the breakdowns,
Uh-huh.
so if you get called out, could there be multiple, could you, let's say you go, an ambulance call, could it go down as ambulance call, citizen assist
Service.
and all in one, or does each call you categorize as one event?
Well, in the first example that you mentioned for like an ambulance call or fire call, okay, that goes on the fire department's calls for service.
Uh-huh.
But if we respond to assist, whether it be like an ambulance call, we're closer or something, and we're able to get there, or on a fire call, if we respond to do traffic, then that generates a separate call for service for the police department. So you'll have a call for service for the fire department, but you also have one for the police department. But these calls for service that I run are strictly for the police
Right.
department. They don't include the fire
So
department.
if you had a disturbance, let's say,
Uh-huh.
could you have a disturbance, an animal complaint, and, 3 in one?
Oh, no,
Three in
no.
one call.
3
no.
in one call, so each one?
Each one is a separate one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, each call receives its own category, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Okay. Now, depending on, dispatch has some discretion there on how they label a call, but we also, through the admin privileges that the Jewel and Peggy have, they may be able to adjust that to more properly identify it. For example, a call could come in as a motorist assist, and we get there, and all of a sudden, well, it's not an assisted motor, it broke down car, it was an accident, So then it's got to be, properly designated as an accident or whatever, so.
Bill?
Of course, this is in my opinion, and I've heard it from other people. The Corvettes of the North, I think, were rather more disturbing this year with a lot of burnouts, not only on the route, but off the routes. Maybe they were local people, and also traffic jams on Highway 54. I was in the traffic jam, and I see no reason why that was a traffic jam, but it was.
I would agree with that. And that will be addressed with the promoters and, but on the other hand, we did issue citations also, and so did the county. So, we did address it, but there probably should have been more from the feedback I was getting also. So, and that will be addressed for next year.
I think one of the things that we've talked about with them is, it's not the Corvettes of the North that are doing the silliness, if you want to call it that. Sometimes it's people that have one reason or another to do it, and then people out there on the side of the streets taunting them
Right,
with
with
signs
signs
and,
that say burn out. or-
burn out here, and, well, if that's the case, we should be issuing them a citation for disturbing the peace.
Is this the first year emergency government was involved? They were involved on Highway 54, correct?
Well, the rescue,
Yeah,
they've
right on
all,
highway, right, yes.
I was gonna say, rescues, they've always been involved.
Oh,
And typically, rescue has always handled the Highway 54 intersections wherever they change, whether it was at 80th or whether it was last year when they crossed at 64th because of the intersection being done. So, yes, rescue has always been out there helping.
And I attend the highway safety meeting, and those are the people that authorized them to be there, and they had a lot of complaints about Highway 54 being
Yeah.
a terrible jam.
And that was a concern before the event for me also, so.
In other years, it wasn't necessarily that spot. As Bill relates, he was sitting there I sat on the corner of 80th and W and U one year for pretty much the same length of time. They just need to learn to stop and do a break here and now and then, let those 10, 12 cars go, get them out of the way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we can address that. So, anybody else for the chief? Go ahead, man.
Roseanne Kudrowski, I live over on Baltic Drive. What are the guidelines for putting vehicles that people are trying to sell, put them in the, and putting them in the road right away, right on a corner where there's a stop sign.
Are you talking about the one down here at, that,
Yes, that's-
unfortunately,
they've
that
been
one's
gone.
not in the right of way. That's on private property. And if it's not in the right of way and not a traffic hazard or an obstruction, they can park it on their own property.
But isn't there a 22-foot state right away or out
Well,
right away or
it's
something?
33 feet from the center of the roadway
Yeah,
out, and that one is outside of the right of way.
when it's sitting where it's almost on the road? It's
Every
only-
time we've gone out there, it's well off the road. I'm talking 10, 12, 15 feet off the road.
Not the one that's on
Okay, maybe we're talking about a different vehicle then,
54th
but I'm
Street
talking
and W? Or Kellner
64.
Road, 54th Street and
54?
Kellner Road. They were, most of the time, I don't think they were even a foot off the road, right near the stop sign.
Okay. Every time we've gotten a call and gone out there and looked at it, it's always been well outside the the road right of way. And not a traffic hazard at all.
Out there, it would have been in the woods if it was that far off the road.
Excuse me.
I said if it was not on 54th Street, it would have been in the woods if it was that far off the road.
Yeah, and that's about where it's parked, right up next to the woods. At least the times we've been out there. And I've been out there twice, and I know my officers have been out there more than that, so.
Anything else?
I have pictures of it if you want to see them.
Okay. Okay.
We could have brought those into you anytime to show you those, couldn't they?
Yeah. Because the times we've gotten called on it, it's
Yeah.
it's been well off the right of way.
All right, thank you much for the chief, and be safe.
Thank you, Ernie. I didn't know I could do that.
Anytime, the door's always
Door's
open.
always open. Number 6, consider possible action on resolution 2017-28. Todd and Shark Farmer rezoning from R2 residential agricultural to agricultural lots 1 and lots 3 to accept the updates for future land use map. And this went through planning commission last evening, and planning commission action was what, Patty?
It was approved.
Was approved. Okay? More discussion, any?
You got 1 and 3 down. It's 2?
1 and 3.
Right, lot 2
Two is
was
that?
4 point, it was under 5 acres, so it doesn't meet the agricultural guidelines. He tried.
I mean, it's just under 5, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, we had that discussion, but unfortunately, we weren't able to go anywhere with it. And that's that?
Yes, it is.
We thought so too.
Very
And we tried to think
disappointing.
of different ways for that to happen, but it,
Unfortunately, it is what it is.
It is
All right,
what it
any
is.
discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to come forward?
I'll make a motion that we approve
Resolution.
resolution set 2017-28 for lots 1 and 3.
I'll second.
Motion Dan, second Kathy, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries. Got that through for you finally.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
thank you.
I apologize on the last item there. The treasurer is not in the office today due to her husband leaving for the Guards and that, so you've got the report in your hands, so. And then we'll move to 7, considered possible action on resolution 2017-29, a resolution to release future street reservation, Sunny Acres, first addition to Sunny Acres subdivision. We have Attorney LaChapelle here. You're representing the buyer. Okay. And if you have some questions from the board, feel free to ask him. So one of the questions I have is that center little piece is actually owned by some other party,
That's correct.
and there is a offer to purchase in place by one of the 2 other property owners, is that correct?
Yeah, my client owns the property directly, the lot directly to the north, and he's offering to purchase this lot too, contingent upon the restriction being removed.
Attorney Flanagan thought he could be able to be here, but he's provided us with the information, what it is, and there's a couple things that take place on it, but if we approve it being done, then needs to go through a, what's the term I'm looking for?
The correction.
Correction instrument. Okay.
So your client then is going to be owning that whole L shape of that property then, is that correct?
Yeah, that's, well, you'll own the lot to the north.
To the north,
Right.
and then with that
And then
strip?
Right, then you'd have that corner.
Okay.
So I assume somebody's paying tax on that little bitty strip right now, I would imagine, because it's got a parcel number, correct? So I guess it makes sense to join it.
Is it that?
It's an old one.
This is it?
Yeah, that's that
Yeah,
little piece
that's
right
it.
there.
So I think Vern wants to, back in the day, you would come down this road here, you would come here and go up this other way, but if I'm looking at outlot,
So
then that road
what
would
kind of
dead
motion
end.
do you need?
Just a motion to
Just to approve the resolution.
approve the resolution,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution
2017-29, as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion second by Patty. Any discussion? Is there anything else you needed to add, sir?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any board discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. I have an aye, any opposed? All right, we'll get it started. Number 8, discuss possible action on Edgewood Acres subdivision drainage issues. And where we are on that is we did bring the company back there to do some more work. We thought we could put a camera system in, but the camera that they have requires jet pressure to push it through. And with that, there was concern on our part that the metal pipe with that much pressure might collapse like the other pipe collapsed. Okay, so at that point in time, we stopped that area and we went over and recleaned the concrete piece that is on Batavia all the way to, I believe it is 67th Street. And we did bring a fair amount of roots out of there again. And at that point in time, we went to all the manholes and we looked at the flow of the water, and it was flowing very well, to a point that the manhole that is on 67th Street was actually dry, no water in it at all. So at that point in time, we've stopped, told North American that we didn't need their services any more longer. The only other option we have is to, if we're going to want to look at that pipe, we're going to need somebody that has a remote controlled camera. I have not looked for that yet, but I was told that there are sewer services that have a remote camera that doesn't require water pressure to propel it through. So I guess what we want to do from now, we know the flow is much better than it was initially. We may be okay now, or do we want to continue on, because there's basically about 1,000, maybe 1,000 foot of metal pipe out there yet, which, considering their age, may be susceptible to failure either sooner or later. So I have not received the bill yet from Earth Incorporated for what work they did for us yet, so I'm kind of hesitant to say if we have enough money to go ahead and get a camera in. So I guess, what do the board members feel? Should we sit tight right now, or should we look for a camera system that's self-propelled and see what it would cost. Patty?
My opinion is, have you had any other complaints or further saying it's working, or we're still having problems, or anything like that since?
No, we don't, and we know the water table is down substantially over there.
Right, yeah.
I think, have you guys folks having any trouble?
We stopped pumping, yes.
Yes.
Right.
What's that?
We have stopped pumping.
You did?
So that's a good
Okay.
sign.
How about the
After the
neighbors?
clean out, all the roots that they pulled out.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that when I spoke with one of the other homeowners in the subdivision who lives to the north of Batavia, they mentioned that at the time the pipe was reconnected after the collapse, that was when things seemed to make a difference on their end.
Sure.
But, and I just want to point out that that would say to me that common sense might say that the pipe had collapsed prior to the work that had begun on it.
We believe that's the case.
Yeah, and I didn't want you to think that that,
No.
had anything to do with it. Also, I would just like to say that the farther up you go on the pipe, I think a camera is still a good idea. The system is in place. It's been in place a long time.
Yeah.
It's drier now than I think it's probably been in a long, long time. And if you're gonna get a camera up there, now's the time when the water table is down and the system has a lot less water flowing through it.
Mhm. Bill, you had anything?
Yeah, I think we was asked to look into it. I think we did some work on it. And I think that personally that should be sufficient. We know where there's new pipe now and where there's old pipe. If there's a problem, we pretty much know where that's going to be. I would say we let it as is. We accomplished, I think, what they wanted us to accomplish.
Mhm. Anybody else?
I agree. I agree with Bill and Patty. I think we just leave it as be now. Now, I know at some point we are gonna have to address that whole pipe, and because we saw what came out, and, at some point, we might have to be a little more proactive.
My thought is to, we took some initial action as appropriate to respond to a considered emergency. We now have time, and I think the sanitary district should now be involved with it. It's actually a sanitary water removal process. They should be involved with it in deciding whether they want to activate it and take it from there, I guess. And I don't know if we've used up our 50,000 or not that we've done. One more question.
When you say that the sanitation district should take it up,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
Well, it means that they were the agency that has the real control over water and sewer if there is to be it. And because our attorney determined that in the initial phase of it, that they had some player status in the request of it, we met with them first, that first meeting, and then we decided to go as, because we didn't, we felt that we as the board could go faster than them as a group. So now I guess if we've got it stabilized, we should now ask them to look at it. They have funding sources available to them, which is one shape, manner, or form. They have taxing authority to tax for projects if it needs to be. And that's kind of takes it away from the town board's budget to another source. Bill?
I think we should do that at another meeting or resolution, turning that over to the sanitary district, and that's what the town is doing, and I think we got plenty of backup material to say that the sanitary district met on such and such a day and actually did this, and present it to our attorney and have a resolution turning this over to them. We did help them out.
I don't actually know if you need a resolution right now, Bill, because the item said discuss possible action, and you could do a referral to the sanitary district right from that if you so choose. If not, you want us to do a resolution. next month, we could develop one, but
I think the referral would be sufficient at this point.
I'd like to see how much we've already spent before making a decision.
all right, well, if nobody wants to make a motion to forward, we'll table this till next month, and hopefully I'll have the financials for you by then.
Really good.
Okay, all right, thank you. Accept, item 9, accept police officer Don Voigt's resignation effective approval. He was part-time for us, Mel, not working very many hours, correct?
Correct, but he also got a promotion at his full-time job over in Fox Valley area, which would even more dramatically limit him as far as filling shifts here. So I think it was in his best interest and ours that he resigned. So, you know.
Okay. Motion to approve by
I'll make a motion.
Dan.
I'll second.
Patty, seconds. Any discussion? Thank him for his service, would you please? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. And we move to 11. 10. Yeah. Approve the agent change for the store to Roy Harrell for the second or third time. Apparently they can't keep a manager there. So the background check came back same as last time.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of agent change for the store to Roy Harrell.
I'll second.
Motion Kathy, second Patty. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Motion carries. 11, possible action, consider possible action, advanced disposal service contract 2018 to 2020. As Attorney Flanagan was charged with to go through it, they have offered us a contract with no change the first year, and then cost of living changes like they were doing for the next 2 remaining terms. No other changes to the contract language, as I recall.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to refer this back to the committee. We haven't seen this. We're the ones that initiated this to go to the attorney, and we usually sit down on a new contract and discuss things with advanced disposal about things that have happened in these last 3 years. We've just got a letter lately from the office here, the committee did, about somebody would upset about they didn't get their garbage picked up, and we'd like to discuss that with them. So I would make a motion to refer this to the committee.
Bill is making a motion to refer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made second. I will vote no against this, and I'll say emphatically, we decided at a board meeting to have our attorney seek to get a extension to the contract as is. I am voting no. I'm voting against this. We said as a board.
Okay, I am voting yes because this is the way it has always done. We've always had the attorney do the legal things, but there's other things that are brought up, and we have Veolia or advanced disposal here at the table. So I'm voting yes. It's just a formality of something. It's like building the roads. When the committee decides that they bring it to the board, I'm voting yes.
Any other discussion?
My question, Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm.
if I may ask, if this were to go back to the committee, my concern is when will it get resolved? Because we're in the budget process right now. We need to know this. We're right at the last wire here. And so I'm hesitant to vote in favor of going back to the committee level at this point, just simply because we have a contract that was worked out well with very few changes, and if we've had issues, we should have been having those conversations months ago. What were those issues, and why did we tell our attorney to go back and work with them if we haven't been happy with them?
And I want to reiterate, and I will say is, there is a process for you to meet if you have issues with them. And you've had issues, if you've had with issues, you should have met with them. The attorney was directed to get an extension to the contract. We got an extension with no increase in cost, plus a cost of living for the next 2 years. Exactly what we asked him to do. Any other discussion? Dan?
Have we had any complaints?
Yes, we have.
Many? I
Yes.
mean,
Yes, we have.
And how are those resolved? Did you go to them?
Well, if we're speaking to the motion,
how about to my question? We're asking, I
yes,
want my
yes,
question.
we've had many.
And have they been brought to the board at all? This is the first time.
No, they have not been brought to the board. We usually bring them up with Veolia. I'll get a call that they didn't do route number 5, and they missed all of 47th Street and 64th Street. I've called those people several times. They said, we'll get somebody out there. We'll send somebody on Saturday, and they never did. I called back the next week. These are things that we discuss at the meeting, and we have every year of the contract.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of returning it back to the solid waste and committee?
Can I ask one more question before we vote? If we did return it back to them, how soon do you think your committee would have a resolution?
By the next meeting, we will have this for you. By the next meeting,
By
we'll have
the
this
October
contract.
meeting?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
How much time do we have to accept this before they rescind their
Yeah.
offer to have a 0 increase? I mean, they're watching this right now. We have a good contract here, and if we have issues with them, I don't know who else we would go to for first off. And if we have issues with them, they should be coming to the board. Just like when people have issues that their roads aren't plowed appropriately, those things are coming to the board. So those types of issues and concerns, if they're as excessive as you describe, or as has been described here, they should be coming to the board. I still will vote
We're
opposed.
well ahead of time, as
Thanks.
indicated by the attorney.
Where does it say?
That's because we pushed him to do this for us, so we
Yes.
wanted it done early. We felt we had a competitive advantage if we went to him early and asked him for a extension.
Why don't we just call for the vote?
I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Opposed.
Motion is denied. Motion to approve the contract made by myself. Second by
I'll second.
Kathy. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Consider possible action on revised FMLA and policy, and Lisa's had maybe some headaches here and there on this? No? Okay, but anyway, we've got it up to speed. Has that been, Ruderware had the input to it? Correct. All right, is there any discussion on it? Do you need it to go to any committee level, or are you comfortable approving it as the board level?
Mr. Chairman, just to remind everyone, this was already at committee level a while ago when we talked about how was the Wisconsin portion of FMLA going to be paid versus the federal, because when you are under the federal portion, it's up to the employer. Let me see, while in Wisconsin, the employee may elect, and while on federal, the employee must use, is the difference. So we had sent it back to our attorney just to clarify if the language that we had already acted on months ago, where we had put in there that while on the Wisconsin portion of the leave, the employee may elect any accrued time, and while on the federal portion of leave, the employee must use sick time, but not must use any other of the accrued times. That's the only change to the policy.
So, with this policy, are we following pretty much of the state and federal regulations?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
There's that
Because they-
first period that we are required to, first 6 weeks?
The first, if you're talking about a maternity,
Yeah. Okay.
family leave because of maternity leave, then you're talking 6 and 12 weeks. Then yes, that first portion, which is Wisconsin, is the portion where it runs concurrent with federal leave. And while on that portion of it, the employee may elect to use accrued time or just be totally on unpaid time. Once you hit the federal portion of leave, it is the employer's discretion of what would be required. And we had motioned and voted
while ago about how we would require employees to use any accrued sick time, but we would not require them to use any other accrued benefit time.
Okay, and then I do have some questions throughout this.
Do we have a motion on this yet?
No, we're in
No, we're
discussion.
explaining about what the changes were.
So, can I go through some of my questions that I have here?
If it's, I guess you can, Patty, but if there's more questions, then if we're not gonna, maybe we ought to send it back to the committee, and then you meet with the committee and then
Okay.
discuss the questions? I mean, if it's simple, just wording changes, there
Well, I have
may
some
be
wording
easier to
and-
do that than
I'll make a motion to move it to
personnel.
approve the revisions now.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to state that the reason I am in agreement with that motion is because this is the exact policy that we had in front of us just months ago. There's no change, and our attorney read it verbatim to what was presented here months ago and has no concerns. So,
Okay.
The only change was, just to clarify,
Just to-
the old one didn't specify whether the
Right.
employee could elect or not. That was the only.
That was the only change?
Yep.
What was the only change on that?
Before, it wasn't clear in the prior policy whether the employee could elect to take paid time off or use comp or vacation or whatever.
And that's why
Now,
it was sent back.
and now they put in here that for the federal, the employee must use their accrued sick time first, where before they didn't have to. It was left up to, it was just kind of left open-ended. It didn't really specify in the old
I
one.
do remember that part.
Right, so as an example, under number 9, my question, it didn't really actually say paid or unpaid. Am I missing a part of
What
the
page are you on?
page
Nine.
5 of 10?
And which
That
paragraph or
was-
where?
I'm just saying, under the injured and service member caregiver leave, my question is that particular section a paid or unpaid, or am I missing a reference to that paragraph as saying, is that paid or unpaid?
Well, these
leave?
all, though, fall under, if you go to page 9, then, where it
Right.
talks about using paid. So these are just the different types of leave, but then you go to page 9, where it talks about using paid leave.
Right,
So
so
that
these are
applies
the
for
types
all.
And that
of
was
leaves you
a lot
can
of my
request for.
questions.
And then once you request that leave,
Okay,
there's a portion of what you're entitled to that falls under Wisconsin. There's a portion of that leave that would fall under federal.
okay.
And
And that
what-
was most of my questions, was how do, from this policy, it was a little bit confusing to me, so that was part of my questions as to how does one figure out if it's paid or unpaid
Okay.
leave?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Motion
back
been made
and
and-
forth. I am right with
Right.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving, signify by saying aye. I'm an aye, any opposed?
No, I just
One
would like
vote.
to see it go to the, to answer some more of my questions, I guess, so.
We can put it on another future agenda for one of the committees. August disbursement vouchers, any discussion on them? Well, Lisa, come on.
I
Mary?
see also on the finances that the discrepancy has been resolved.
It has been resolved.
Okay.
Yes.
Took a while.
Good job with that.
Hearing none, operator license applications, we have Megan Allar for 1 year, Jada Anderson Pilch Jr. for 1 year. Those have been approved. The first one was Kuzel, second one was Marjorie's Steakhouse.
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Bill, second by
Patty.
Patty. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? No opposed. Monthly reports from departments. Public Works. The culvert along Sampson Street that runs under it, which is from the 1 Mile Creek, was relined. Plastic liner was put inside of it. And then the cavity that was surrounding the smaller diameter pipe was filled with what they call a concrete slurry. So now you basically have a plastic liner that is attached to the metal previous liner that was starting to fail with the concrete slurry. We should have a product now that will last the lifetime of that road or longer. And paint striping was finished just the other day on the 2 roads that we had functioning on this year. Crew is working on we have a public trail that goes from Heritage Ridge down to the Lake Wazicha walking trail. That's a strip of the land that is probably 10 foot wide, goes from one corner, actually 2 there, through that subdivision that was dedicated when the subdivision was formed. It's full of tree roots in that, and we're in there laying bark down from our bark chip pile to make it safer to walk on. Other than that, the routine maintenance. Any questions?
Yeah, who did the white paint strip?
Adams County.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. They've done our striping for years. The only other striping is, I think, Portage County, correct?
I know Adams County does it, but I can't believe that was their work.
With Town Line 2, with the white, or it's probably in Saratoga, it seems like that paint is very known.
Well,
Or,
that issue there is a failure of the paint to adhere to the new road. It was so late in the year when that road was laid down, and then it had to be striped right away without even giving it a chance to begin to cure. And it's failing. It's going to have to be restriped at some point in time. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Anything else on Public Works? We'll move across. This time, Airport Commission. Construction is going on right now at the airport taxiway B. Is underway. The construction of it, stormwater piping is being installed for future drainage. That project will be going on for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then for next year, the reconstruction of runway 1230 has been approved. The bids came in 9% under the estimate, so it's a $1.3 million project. So that is likely to be approved by this date in September or October when the funding gets done, but appears to be going. MSA Professional Services was selected by the commission to continue to be our designing for the airport projects. Every 3 years you have to go out and review the professionals that are doing your design work and determine whether you want them, and the state BOA is actually the one that makes the decision, but usually based upon the info from the airport. They're continuing to do our project work. They are right now designing the project. They've been given the go-ahead to design the expansion projects that we are talking about for parking area and the parallel taxiway on part of it. And that project, if it's going to go through, is being funded through that state DOT earmarking of $4 million, which is in the budget currently now. Still has to have approval of the governor, or he has a red pen, as we all know. So it's not a sure thing till now, but the project is going through design phase right now. As far as traffic, I'm sure you all notice, and you hear the jets, there's more and more coming in. Better than 50 jets last month. We are selling a lot of jet fuel now. Every 3 weeks we've been having to take a load of jet fuel, which is good. We bought a fuel truck, which was $60,000. Just in the last 2 months, we have paid 26% of that cost through the additional dollar per gallon that we charge for full-service fueling. In other words, our regular jet fuel price is $3.80 if they pump it themselves. It's $4.80 when we take the truck to them, and that 16,000 gallons means 16,000 additional dollars came in. So we paid for 26% of the truck in 2 months.
Nice.
So that's going good. We are looking for a couple good more months yet this year, and then we'll put it to rest till later. Any questions on the airport? And the other thing is, if a jet does come in and asks not to fuel, if they are using our facilities, they're charged, depending on the size of it, $100 to $200 as we call ramp fees. And these folks, quite frankly, when they come out of their plane, if they're not fueling because of wherever they're going, they come right down and, Jeremy, here's my card, because they're all well aware that their jets get charged typically ramp fees for parking. So very great people. I've talked to many of the people that came in over the last few months, and they just love the area. Doing well.
Has a decision been made about signing that as a commission or as a town
For what?
for the fertilizer from the,
We have not got the opinion back from the attorney yet that you're referring to, Bill. Once we know that, then we'll take care of it. Any questions on the airport? Moving across, recycling solid waste.
we had our choose to reuse on Saturday, and it was very successful, and we'll have a written comparable report from Mays.
TV's down quite a bit from
Yes, they were.
a lot of waste oil.
Lots of waste oil.
Did it all come from one person, all those, that whole pallet full?
No,
Oh,
no,
that was a lot of oil.
yeah. Almost 200 gallons of oil.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked to be. Any disturbances?
No,
Anybody get the $300 bike that was out there? Was it?
every bike went.
Every bike went?
Every bike went, and it wasn't to the scrappers.
It was like 200 bikes.
200
Really?
bikes.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that totally, Bill, because I saw that one guy had a truck.
Like he had.
Oh,
was
like he
picking
had
up-
the frames and
He had
stuff like
some
that.
frames that didn't have
We're talking
wheels or
about
sprockets to them.
So you had 200 bicycles? Wow.
That people brought in on
No, it
Saturday?
was through the.
No, that was from the health department.
Well,
when they-
yeah, a lot of people brought some in, but it came from the share.
The bike
Bike
share
share.
Bike share
program.
program?
Oh, good deal.
They obviously got more bikes donated than they needed, and they were stored at the airport for a long time, and the airport went back to them and said that now that we've remodeled or not remodeled, we cleaned out the hangar, we needed the area that we wanted to lock our tools up in, and that happened to be the room that they were in, so.
They're going to a different system. They're going to buy new bikes, and they're going to be in contact with another firm, and every 3 years they change them, so.
Yeah, she indicated that there was going to be some big changes. Any other questions on that? Plan Commission, anything else, Patty, you want to bring up, or is there?
Oh,
or-
we approved land use permit for Rough and Ready to have their business in the O'Connor building. And then also, we had a rezoning that will be coming in front of us. We recommended to the board rezoning a very small piece of agricultural to become residential. And then also, we worked with, is it Plaza Automotive? Oh, Don's not here. The business that's on Airport, the little building, what is that, Bill? The automotive that we had at the Plan Commission, I don't know his.
It's done. Remember, we had all the problems with that. It's where Hanson's
ago.
House of Heating used to be.
Right.
Oh, 64th and W?
No.
54.
Right on
Oh.
Airport and.
Airport and
Piney.
Needles
Airport.
Lane.
Yeah, Needle Lane.
Piney. Airport and Piney.
Yeah, he finally decided that he needed a business permit
Yeah, so we
after some pushing.
approved that, so
Yeah.
that went really well.
Okay. Healthy buildings,
And then
Dan?
also, there was
Oh,
also one where we're working on the mobile vendor permit
Okay.
with that too.
Public buildings, Dan.
We did not meet last month, but
Mhm.
we are going to need to meet shortly.
Yeah, I did indicate to Dan to meet shortly, as we want to finalize that loan that we agreed to take out for, which included a car for Mel, which Mel is not going to take this year. So we need to wrap that up, that loan, and get that taken care of, and that included the generators and whatever else it was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so,
That's coming
and
to the property committee?
public buildings.
Public
We had
buildings?
some
Yeah,
stuff.
'cause you had some stuff that was pending yet.
That we didn't take
Oh, I
care
know
of.
we do.
Okay, legislative committee is gonna meet tomorrow night, so there's no report yet. Public safety, Kathy, anything?
No report.
Economic development, Patty, anything?
Usually I report on the Southeast Wood County Groundwater Committee meeting, and that was scheduled, but then they canceled, so I have nothing to report about
Okay,
it.
personnel committee,
No personal issues.
WTA meeting.
They talked about the asphalt plant.
Yeah, I talked about how efficient the asphalt plant is, and I agree with them. What's coming up now is, this coming month, we will be discussing the road project the county partially funded, where they maybe give us $20,000 towards a project. I am going to propose a project, I guess I can't discuss it at here, but I'll be proposing a project for the town to get a stipend on. I was on the committee 2 years ago, and I'm hoping to get elected to that committee again to go out and make some choices, because it,
And Senate Bill 387 was discussed, where towns, villages, and city are you losing a lot of local control, and asking municipalities to have a resolution to that.
and I signed online, there was a petition came around, signed online for it, and I supported it. And from there, anything else? Reports from individual board members. William,
Don't have anything.
Daniel?
My only thing is, again, on the recycle or the contract with advanced disposal, I mean, if we have issues with them, I would hope that we get a report or something so we know about it. I have not heard anything from anybody, neighbors, friends, family, whatever, so was not aware of any issues, but obviously there is some that we weren't aware of. So in the future, I'd like to just be brought up to speed on that.
Hey?
I just want to thank the Public Works crew for cleaning out the garage and getting that prepared for the Choose to Reuse, and also the auxiliary for showing up and helping out like they did. We had some long lines, so they helped keep the lines moving and did not have any disturbances out on the road, so thank you.
Okay. Kathy?
Nothing to report.
Lisa, you got anything?
I do.
I just wanted to let the public know the 2017 statement of assessed values for the town of Grand Rapids just came out. Last year, our assessed valuation was $476 million. This year, it's $506 million. In other words, the town of Grand Rapids is now assessed at $500 million. The biggest changes were in the property values. Property values increased $25 million alone, which is a 6% average increase in property values. I guess I'm seeing a lot of that when I'm seeing home sales come through to what we have them in our assessors' estimated cost to what the homes are selling for. I had a discussion with our assessor just last week, and he indicated that even though our ratio is pretty close, he says he thinks it's time for us to consider a reassessment to make corrections to those houses that need to be and bring it back up to 100% of what the state rate is going to be. So I'm just throwing it out there, just his discussion. If anybody wants to see this assessed value, I did make 4 or 5 extra copies, And this is just a graph of what our assessed values has gone over the last 5 years. You can see we were down and then up, we had a drop, and I think that was 2015, and 16 and 17 right back up. So looks like those that are in the real estate market know that the market was quiet for a while, and it's pretty strong right now.
Yes, you can't even get listings. I've been speaking to realtors and
No,
you
there-
can't even get the listings.
No, there's not enough homes in Grand Rapids for sale. Teddy, are you aware of how many house permits are out yet? I know we just took 2 more out, I believe. I think we're better than 15, maybe 17.
My last count was 13, so with your 2, it would be 15, so.
Yeah, so that's new construction. Last year, we had $3 million in new construction, so that was another pretty good year. Okay, and side talk or what?
No, just making sure I didn't walk away.
Yeah, I usually do.
Yeah.
Item 17, public input. Anybody else wish to speak to anything this evening? Yes, sir.
Back to my first question.
Thank you.
I don't want to push you, I mean, if
No,
there's nothing to
because
say,
the-
that's fine. so.
Because the town board didn't set any values of what we could spend, or if we even wanted to, I just sat back and said, I'm gonna just sit and wait on it and see once there is no urgency for us to buy the land, although it's been sitting there for sale for a long time. And it may not be a bad piece to own. We own part of the trees, by the way. We don't, the lot line is about, in about 8 foot, so we own 8 foot of trees, so we actually own a little more than it is. Go ahead, sir.
That, I know Spirit Land's over there, not as a rule anymore, they're gonna
No.
land at Midstate.
That's the normal rule.
It's a lot, but I know there's gonna be emergencies like there was a couple days ago. But that would be an awful nice place for a police department.
Sure, there's a lot of nice places for a police department.
No, right here.
Be right across the road from you, it would be.
But they can see down yours.
There was a design done years ago that we just put a building between the 2 buildings here, and we'd go from there, so. When the community feels we need more room,
Well, we
which
got
I'm in agreement we do,
Right. We got
that's
the growth,
something
like you're saying.
we need to do, but it's not today. There's people that,
Oh, no, just bring it up.
but I'm just expecting to see some donor will come through someday and help us out. In the back?
Steve Marek from
Yeah.
Acres. I apologize, I came in a little late, I just assumed it would be at the back end of the meeting. But, want to just say thanks to Arnie and the 2 gentlemen that work for the town, Mike and Rick, for the work that they did have completed on the section line that was cleaned.
Yeah.
I live on Wood Avenue, which is the farthest, most north avenue and of Edgewood Acres, and my sump pump, I think from just talking to my neighbors, was running more than anybody else's, but the day that you guys reconnected the line, that next day, my sump pump quit running. And that was the first time all year.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing.
We knew there was a plug there,
Yeah.
and we found it. But we found it the way we didn't want to find it, though.
Yeah. And had similar experiences at work this year with finding issues like that. And when a pipe's under the ground, you just don't know what you're gonna have. But no, appreciate the effort. Hope you guys can keep going and keep working on it. I don't know, just curious what you did spend, if you guys had a total.
No, I don't have the invoice yet from them. I don't know if they're holding back for shell shock or, or if it's so small he didn't want to write it out, I guess. But they really only had 2 people working it, so it wasn't, and they did a nice job being able to pull that pipe in. Did a real.
What did you guys actually find there, Ernie?
We found that spot which was about 50 foot underside of the road was the cause of the problem, but then when we were trying to go at it from both sides, we caused a break, and that's where we had that section in there. So once we actually put a 10-inch pipe in there, it was tight to go in there, but with a smooth bore versus a rough corrugated board, I think the volume of water probably is going to be pretty close to the same that it can handle. We did find on the other end that somewhere along the line, that pipe goes from metal to concrete and then back to metal in different sections of it. So it's really kind of weird, but we're going to see what we can do yet some more. Anything else? Any other questions from the public? Public comment period is now over then. Next agenda, anything on the agenda specifically? If not, get to me as the time becomes necessary. Motion to adjourn is in order by Kathy, second by Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Hey, Chief, I got a question